I would be interested in hearing from both of you about how you think about having conversations about these various things where you do find that people don't necessarily agree with you about whatever kinds of things you found yourselves disagreeing with people about.
It's a hard one because I think it also depends on the nature of the disagreement. You know, if we're disagreeing about, you know, is Rocky Road ice cream better than butterscotch ice cream? I mean, that doesn't really matter. But there are other things that really do matter. I mean, you can think about the debates that took place a couple years ago about vaccines or masks. I mean, people really had strong opinions about that, and it created huge divisions within families and with communities, you know, that the mask somehow became this political pawn. So, I mean, as a psychologist, I tend to approach those kinds of things, or I try to anyway, and again, depending on the issue, it's not always so easy, but I try to approach it with curiosity. You know, there are reasons people believe things, even if people are wrong. There's a reason why people subscribe to a particular way of thinking. And so I think that if we can detach ourselves a little bit from the issue and try to bring curiosity, well, what may have led this person to believe that? What set of experiences may they have had that led them to draw that conclusion? And perhaps had I been brought up or had a set of experiences that led me to that, might I, you know, adopt those same ideas? I think that if we can approach it from a place of empathy and compassion, I think that it's going to at least be I think that we're going to live a little bit easier and a little bit more peacefully if we can approach it from that perspective. But again, it's very much easier said than done. But there was something else that I wanted to tack onto that, but it has escaped me. I'll see if it comes back. But I think that bringing a place of curiosity is what I personally try to do in those situations.
Yeah, that's great. The two words that came to mind, or collection of words that came to mind when you asked this question, Nick, was first humility, a posture of humility, and second, a spirit of inquiry. And I think those, you know, curiosity, I think we're speaking similar language here. If both sides were to take that tack of curiosity or humility and inquiry, it would make a very big difference than if both sides were trying to prove the other wrong and themselves right. You still have the problem of what is truth, right? Who is right, and does that matter? I'm an ethicist, and I'm an ethicist in a hospital where often the decisions for what is right and what is wrong have life and death consequences. Is it ethical, for example, to remove a ventilator from a patient who is no longer able to express her own wishes because the medical team thinks that she has zero quality of life and will never leave the hospital? Removing that ventilator isn't the direct cause of her death. The direct cause of her death is her underlying disease. However, we can often be quite certain that her disease will advance quite quickly to death once that ventilator is removed. Those are the kinds of questions that I'm called in to make on a daily basis in our hospital. And we have to know what is right and wrong. Sometimes the answers are legal, and so what is ethical is not always legal, and what is illegal is not always ethical. But we have to ask those questions, and so I think, Nick, where you're going is getting to these bigger life questions. At some point, some of us in this room are going to think that our own belief systems, whatever they are right, and others are wronged, that we have truth and others don't or are misguided. And what do you do about that? On some level, on all levels, I think it's absolutely, even saying this is an absolute statement. I'm finding myself making an absolute statement about something absolute, but it's absolutely expected to hold truth claims. And if anyone thinks that it isn't, I could pull out a couple of particularly nauseating examples where no one in this room would say, oh no, that's acceptable, right? You can just think of any forms of heinous abuse. No one's gonna say those are acceptable. Okay, so if we can agree on particularly heinous things as being unacceptable or wrong or evil, or you pick your word, why do we come to those perspectives? Why do we hold these as values? Is it just because it's dehumanizing? And then I could say, well, there are many aspects of modern life that are equally dehumanizing. The way, well, there's so many different ways that are dehumanizing but are legal, right? So what do we do about that? And this is, going back to what does it mean to live well in order to die well? I think wrestling with these questions in a posture of humility, in a spirit of curiosity and inquiry, hopefully will, in a community of people seeking, will hopefully lend itself toward finding answers. And I think that's part of the spirit of these conversations that Veritas Forum holds, to try to seek truth together.